Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, Chris.
Hey,
What's
welcome
up?
everyone to the Recovery Clinic. We have a great show today. Jimmy's going to get into that in a minute. We're excited to be here. The COVID-19's taken over our daily lives, forcing us to adapt. Um, the recovery community is at risk, and so we created the Recovery Clinic so you have a chance to stay connected and engaged during a disconnected time. It's essential to have a community and to be accountable within that community. And so the Recovery Clinic can bring you topics to engage with that will peace, comfort, and courage during this unknown time. Um, we know that you don't have to be an island of one, and you should never feel that way. Addiction is going to try to separate us from the recovery community 365 days a year. So we want to provide an opportunity for you to jump in, engage in a discussion, and fight off addiction. That's what we're doing, right, Jimmy?
That's it, man. We do this because we're two guys in long term recovery, and we know the importance of staying locked into our recovery during this crisis. Chris has this thing about social distancing being different from social isolation. And isolation is part of addiction, and we don't have to do that no more. A hug would be better, but FaceTime is sufficient for now.
We're hugging
Uh,
you with our hearts.
It's a virtual hug. Like jump in there and just grab Chris.
That's right.
I'm hugging you right now, bro,
Yeah.
man.
Hey, we've
Oh,
got some great guests today, like we always do. Uh, we're going to ask
true.
them. We're going to ask them some questions. We're going to get this ball rolling. But before, like always, I want to encourage you, if you haven't, to download the Narcansaw app. It's a great resource for prevention, treatment, and recovery. And so you also have a chance to save someone's life. There's a way, steps to prevent an overdose in that app. And so please download that. We'd love to see you in there accessing those resources. Also, please visit the arkansasdrugtakeback.org website for a full list of resources the state has to offer to keep you connected.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want to say thank you to the Office of the State Drug Director, the Division of Aging, Adult, and Behavioral Health, all the state agencies that have given Chris and I this platform to do this. I am the State Recovery Coordinator. Chris is the CEO of Natural State Recovery. And so we want to bring you guys resources. We also want to thank the Arkansas Department of Health. What? Because that's our guest today. And this is
They've
where
been
we talk.
busy.
Yeah, they've been really busy. And so the fact that they can take a minute because they care about people in recovery, people everywhere, not just recovery, but this show is about all things recovery. And let's get real. We're in a very high risk situation because we're in recovery based on the lifestyles we used to live. And so you guys are going to get a chance to meet Joe Martin, Dr. Geraldine Jones, two amazing people, get to ask them questions. Type your questions in the chat box. Send Chris a letter through the mail. He'll get it next week. We'll figure it out. Hey, and so
Don't lick it.
don't lick it. Yeah, COVID. Be safe.
Don't lick the stamps.
And so I'm going to bring Joe Martin on the screen and let Chris introduce him, and we're going to rock out.
There he
Joe!
is.
Hey guys,
Hey, Joe, how are you?
I'm good.
Hey, everybody, this is Joe Martin. He works with the Arkansas Department of Health for the Substance Misuse and Staying Healthy Department, right? As I said, I
Pretty, pretty
paraphrased.
much.
So you guys have been busy, right? They've talked to me. I talked to you last week or 2 weeks ago. Talked to me. Normal workload is already busy. Did they add some work to you? You said you were working from a different department.
Oh yeah. So this entire agency's been turned upside down from what our normal jobs are. So normally I'm managing grants and getting out there, attending meetings, and trying to help with what I can for prevention of substance misuse. But as of right now, I have actually been reassigned to multiple different tasks. I was supervising the COVID hotline call center here for a little while, and now they have me working down in the emergency operations center here at the health department. So basically, I'm just one of those people, as they say, go here and I go there. So
Yeah, well, That's what being on a team's all about, right? We
Yeah.
got to be willing to adapt. And that's kind of what we're talking about today with the recovery community. We're having to adapt. And so we're grateful that you're here to answer some of our questions that we have. I know that times like this, crisis situations bring out the best and the worst of people. And so we want to continue to showcase the best of us and to how to avoid being victims to unhealthy behaviors and attitudes. And so, Jimmy, I know that you had a question that you didn't want me to steal from you, and I'm going to piggyback on that. I want you to ask that question first because I think it's a straightforward question, and then I'm going to follow up in some more details with Joe. Will you fire that one off?
Yeah. Thank you, Chris, for letting me ask my question. The true epitome of what friendship should be. Give a little, take a little. Give a little, take a little.
I didn't take it.
And so, absolutely. We have, Joe, what we've done is we reached out to the recovery community, the peer recovery group on social media. The recovery clinic's been receiving messages. Chris and I have both been gathering questions for you. And so, one of the questions is, and this came from a lot of people, is there a difference in the risk factor for someone in long term recovery versus someone in early recovery?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, Jimmy. So the best that I would be able to answer that right now is to say, really, our problem is with this virus is: do you have any type of immunocompromised issue? Do you have HIV? Do you currently have hepatitis? Are you a diabetic? Do you have COPD? All of these kinds of issues that you can, potentially have from drug use. But if you're in long-term recovery and you're not really suffering any immunocompromised issues right now, then you're at the same risk factor as everyone else practically, unless you're elderly or you suffer from one of those issues.
Right.
So, Joe, yeah, you bring up a good point. I've been reading this article from the Addiction Policy Forum, and it's talking about, how do we draw the line? What is a vulnerable population? And so it's talking about anybody with a respiratory illness is significantly more greater risk if they contract the virus as being in a dangerous situation. And so will you talk to us about some of the comorbidities that exist among substance use disorder populations?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll just start with what is high risk and what do we consider that here at the health department. The minimal risk to that is, are you 65 or older? If you are 65 or older, then you're already at a high risk of a worse outcome than someone else. Also, and it is exactly what we spoke about. So, if you have any of those immunocompromised issues, so diabetes, currently diabetics is something we're really seeing a lot of people that have contracted the virus that they're having issues with, and we know in Arkansas there are a lot of people that are diabetic. So that's definitely one thing that we tell people to make sure you follow the guidelines that's been pushed out by the CDC and the Arkansas Department of Health. As for other risk factors, there's so many risk factors out there, and really, what we're concerned about are, anything really. So if you got HIV, that means you're already immunocompromised.
Right.
If you get a virus put in you, and this virus has a tendency to want to play havoc on your lungs. And if you develop pneumonia or anything else from this virus and you're in one of those high risk categories, you're going to have a much tougher time fighting it off than someone else who is normally healthy.
And that's a great segue into my next question about this so we're talking about vulnerable populations within the recovery community and beyond the recovery community. And so, I used to smoke. I'm a former smoker. I don't anymore.
Me too.
But I still have seasonal allergies when, the pollen hits. And so I feel like I definitely don't want to contract this virus just because I don't want to risk it. And so what do you say to people that have the idea or the attitude that, I'm healthy, this virus, what I'm seeing online and other media sources, it's a pretty mild virus, so to speak. And so I'm going to continue to go out and do my thing because I don't want to be told what to do. I'm not going to stay at home. I'm going to continue to live my life. YOLO. You know, that kind of attitude. And isn't that, would you consider that dangerous thinking?
Right now, that is very dangerous thinking. So, you know, in the cases that for a majority of the deaths, or excuse me, of the cumulative cases, is that some of the symptoms can be mild. But I think what is more concerning is how many people have to be put on ventilators for this particular issue. And when we say being put on ventilators, that's basically meaning a machine is breathing for you because you cannot actually get oxygen into your lungs. And we're seeing quite a few people nationwide have that issue. Actually, in fact, I'm sure most of you are seeing the news that the Prime Minister in Britain has been put in ICU for that exact same issue. So, you know, it doesn't matter your socioeconomic level here. This virus can get anybody at any time. And you may think that you could have mild, issues from it, but at the same time, you don't know. You could be one of those people that get put in ICU, and you do not have to be at high risk for this. And so it's very important that we, honestly, we have to follow social distancing right now. Because one of the big things with this virus is how easily it is able to be transmitted to another person. You know, we always hear the flu, we get our vaccines for it. And some people don't get vaccines and they're like, well, the flu vaccine will make me sick, or I don't get the flu. And, we have a relaxed attitude towards that. But the flu does not transmit as easily as this virus does. So,
and we have some vaccines for that, correct?
For the flu,
right?
yes, not for COVID-19.
Not for COVID. Jimmy, what did you say a minute ago when we were talking?
Yeah,
How was it spreading?
I mean, it's almost like with this virus, right? You've got 1/3 of the population that seems to think it's a hoax. I'm thoroughly convinced that 1/3 of the population are all in recovery. I'm just keeping it.
Hey, say what you were saying about how it spread forth.
How what?
How it is. You compared it to a forest fire. What did you say?
Oh yeah, see, COVID is spreading like a wildfire in dry woods, right? Like there's a big difference with the flu. Think about if COVID-19 had spent the last year here like the flu had, then what would our death rate look like versus the flu's death rate? The flu wouldn't be such a big bad character compared to that had COVID-19 been in the fight as long as it has. And so I want to jump back though real quick, Chris.
Yeah.
Because I troll a lot on social media because of my platform, right? And so I see people in recovery hanging out like 10 or 11, 12, 13 of them at a time celebrating a recovery birthday in somebody's house like this is okay. Like people are dying. Like the death rate doubled almost overnight. I saw it on the news, something like that. And so that scares me. It scares me that we lived through addiction, fought our butts off, clawed our way out of the pits of a self-induced hell, and then we're so careless and reckless with our health in an epidemic or pandemic like this.
So I will tell you is that the scary thing to think about that is let's take your example that there was 15 people at this party, right? It only takes one person to be confirmed to have this virus. That all 15 people is going to wind up having to be quarantined for it because we have to slow that spread. So really think about it. If one person infected 15 and each one of them went out and infected 15 more, this would be an uncontrollable outbreak. And right now with Arkansas, we've done good at what you've probably heard in the news as flattening the curve, which means that we're keeping our confirmed cases and death rate at a lower rate than what was predicted. And that's always very helpful.
Right.
Yeah. And so you're talking